Ross,
Hey, Clark.
how are you?
Good. Thanks for asking.
You ready for this?
Let's do it.
Okay. I don't remember the year. I was
2018.
2018. I happened to be in Madison, the town of which you live, and my phone was blowing up. In fact, I was with True Stage, what at the time was CUNY Mutual Group, and I was getting a phone call, multiple phone calls, of which I answered, and the question was, have you heard from Ross? I don't know that I've ever told you this.
Not this part.
And I said, no. And I asked why, and the response was, there has been a shooting. To which I said, holy shit. And a number of the community members had reached out, and the irony of me being actually pretty close by the scene of the incident hit home, or at least the whole thing hit home. And at the time, the thing that we had was emergency contact information.
You did. You were one of the only people who had my wife's phone number.
That's right.
Yep.
And was able to reach out to her and find out if things were all right and if there was something that we could do.
Yeah, ironically, it was a really interesting situation. Well, interesting is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. When the shooting happened, my phone was charging on my desk, and I did not consider picking up my phone as I was quickly exiting the premises, as I was dealing with slightly higher priority things at the time. So for a period of about 2 or 3 days, I had no access to my phone, while people were desperately trying to get a hold of me.
So let's back up.
Yeah.
What happened?
So, in September of 2018, I don't even remember which day of the week it is anymore.
I don't remember either.
It was the 19th. It was the day before my daughter's birthday.
I didn't know that.
I started the day by dropping off my car for an oil change, listening to an audiobook by Gabrielle Union called We're Gonna Need More Wine. Ironically, listening to...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Listening to the portion of the book where she talked about working in a Foot Locker and being held up at gunpoint. And she went through I wish I had just thought about this. So 2 hours before this whole thing went down, I heard the would've, coulda, should'ves of a person who was in a situation like this. So about 10 in the morning of a normal day, all of a sudden it wasn't a normal day anymore.
There was software engineering firm.
Software engineering company. All of a sudden there were some very loud noises, some booming noises that sounded louder than anything I had heard over my headphones. There was shooting happening, and it was about 15 feet away from me. I first thought, hide. Then I immediately realized I am way too close. I cannot hide. I need to run. I immediately ran, fell over somehow, and then kept running straight out of the building. My time of risk compared to some of the others in the building was very small, but the level of risk that occurred was very high. I did not realize until I was out of the building that my face was bleeding, and I didn't 100% realize why, and wasn't really able to put everything together until several days later. So the reason that I had fallen over was apparently I had been grazed in the face by a bullet that had already gone through one person. And so potentially the reason that I was only grazed and momentarily delayed from my exit from the facility was because of the decrease in velocity because the bullet already went through someone first. I was able to safely get out of the building, and I, ironically, I got a little bit away from the building, met up with some coworkers, all of whom said, "We're still too close to this thing. Let's get further away." And then we made it further away in the town, and we actually hunkered down in a world market in the wines and random imported beverages section until the
No subliminal tie to the earlier
Right.
things being listened to.
Yeah, so we hung out there until the all clear, and then everybody they have a recombobulation that occurs after that. You talk to a variety of detectives. They make sure that you don't give your version of events to someone else before you give it directly to the person that's part of public record. I described the stuff that occurred and the situation to the best of my ability. And because I did not appear to be in direct mortal peril, drove myself to the university hospital. Technically, I didn't go to the emergency room. I just went to the welcome desk, and I said, "So, there was a shooting today. I got shot. So, but I think I'm okay. So what should I do?" And they're like, "Hold on. We're going to take you to the emergency room." Probably thinking in the background, "Why are you at the welcome desk?"
Because I just got shot.
Because I just got shot, and it seems like I'm fine. So they walked me through the university hospital, took me to the emergency room. I was then examined and photographed for evidentiary purposes, for evidence. That part is in the public record. Sorry, that part is in the record. I don't think you can see it. If I want, I can see the pictures. I have yet to. Maybe someday. At that point, it was determined that, the ER doctor told me to buy a lottery ticket because I received surface wounds from a gunshot. Under some sort of cosmic set of variables, I was physically more or less fine. I did not have to stay the night at the hospital. Everyone else who was, there were 4 people shot that day, not counting the shooter. And everyone else had a much longer physical recovery period than I did. I had the advantage of being able to address all of the mental side of this trauma.
Yep.
Quicker than some of the other folks who were affected.
Sure. So, you and I have talked a number of times about this throughout the years. It's been, was that make it now 5 years? Almost 5 years?
Yeah. I had given a talk in July. 2 months later, the shooting had happened. I think I had done a Go talk.
Yep.
Go's a pretty cool programming language.
Yep.
But all of a sudden, deeper stuff was afoot, for sure.
So, what you may not know is I've also been shot at.
I believe we have briefly been over this. Yeah.
Multiple occasions.
Yeah.
Nowhere near to the, certainly haven't had any surface grazing or anything, but enough to scare the living shit out of me.
I apologize to interrupt, but one thing I was able to find out in this experience, do you know the difference between a shooting and a mass shooting?
I don't.
4. So if that bullet had not hit me, it would have just been a shooting. Because it grazed me, it was a mass shooting.
Interesting technicality for life sentences purposes.
Yeah.
Looking back, it's been 5 years.
It has.
You have gotten, I'll say, a different perspective of life.
Sure.
A different perspective of job. Where in the healing process today are you? And I'm going broader than just, hey, I'm cool that I'm still alive.
Yeah.
But how has that healing process changed Ross today as a result of that thing.
Yeah, okay. So in the first maybe solid year after everything went down, there was pretty heavy post-traumatic stress disorder. I do have a psychology degree, by the way, which is a thing that helped out when I was trying to kind of first recognize that I needed help immediately and I couldn't fix it on my own. Second, being able to recognize things that were happening physiologically and psychologically, I could say, I'm seeing this, this is not okay, I need help. I immediately reached out and tried to get as much help as possible. I felt no shame in needing the assistance. I am lucky to have had that viewpoint going in. I did not need. I felt no
Didn't
desire
need to be convinced.
I had no desire to dull the pain or the feelings with alcohol or pills or anything.
Yep.
So I wanted to feel the pain. I wanted to process it. I wanted to put it behind me. I wanted to be me, not defined by what happened to me. So as far as, one of the talks that I eventually gave at that conference was stress at work and cognitive behavioral theory, partially informed by the fact that we had behavioral psychologists teaching us cognitive behavioral therapy techniques just to make it through the day. And so having them as resources in addition to a psychology degree gave me the ability to then share that with that conference as a group. But so where am I with PTSD? I still don't like loud noises. I still don't really want to go to fireworks. But on a day-to-day basis, am I controlled by this? No. I am mostly comfortable with it being in my rearview mirror as far as day-to-day functioning is concerned. The one thing that has been able to come from this is when you have to come to terms with, statistically in this situation 1,000 times, maybe 950, I don't make it out. Being able to understand that, because this is the reality that I'm living in, I'm glad that I survived this one, and being able to try to keep that perspective, both when little stressors come along, but also to appreciate all of life's events and to have the ability to appreciate being able to continue making memories, and to be able to choose how I am defined, because it obviously could have been a very poignant into whatever my story was. And when it all comes down to it, we're all just a bunch of stories. And mine gets to continue, and I'm pretty happy about that.
And I know this isn't necessarily the easiest of things to talk about, but you touched on exactly kind of where I was hoping you would go, that you get to choose the story of what you are and how you're defined.
Right, and I try not to call myself a victim. I'm a survivor. And there are ways that you can use words to say, it was a thing, it happened, I was there, I survived. And I can choose for it to define me. I can become this crusader for this one specific thing. Like, there are things that I feel very strongly about, like the particular, so the way that cross-state license checking works. There was some problems with the different systems talking to each other, where the person did not legally have the ability to acquire a firearm and acquired a firearm because of, actually not because of that problem, but they could have.
Sure.
They should have been prevented from buying a firearm anywhere.
Right.
And because they were premeditated, they didn't do the thing that they thought they couldn't do. What they did was they bought part of a firearm and another part of a firearm, because buying 75% of a firearm and 25% of a firearm is completely legal, and putting it together to make an illegal firearm is not anything that is directly under laws right now.
Right.
Would I like that to not be? Yes. That it would be nice if that was illegal. We are living in an interesting country with a lot of interesting issues. That is one of them.
Yep.
And so I could make that the only thing I care about from now on for the rest of my life.
Sure.
I have personally decided that I don't need that to be me, and that's okay. And I can be defined by other things. I can, just love my family and just find my own way and just work my way through life the way I see fit instead of having my life events dictate what I think I need to do. I am not beholden to anyone but myself. And well, I mean, my family and, you know, other theological things or whatever.
Of course.
But I don't have to have things define me. I can have my life events influence who I am without having them completely envelop or define me.
How much of that was Ross pre-2018?
At least a little bit. I mean, even doing like Zoom calls with college classmates right after everything happened, the one thing that they said was, I'm glad it's still Ross. Because, the one thing I was worried about was...
No, I mean, how much do you feel like you... defining your life, do you feel like that was a very... obviously it was a pivotal moment, but was it a... Do you... searching for the right words. You don't let those things define you now.
Sure.
But did Ross pre-incident let things define you more?
I think Ross was
Like,
always struggling with that.
Okay.
Ross was always aware of it. Pre-traumatic stress, Ross didn't have a big thing to not try to be defined by. Ross had some little things to be defined by.
Sure.
Like I'm a preacher's kid. Every preacher's kid is partially defined by
I did not know that.
themselves, right? And so I was always at least slightly aware of, because of a thing that is out of your control, you are going to be potentially judged or thought of or expected to do or be a certain thing.
Sure.
So even at a young age, I was aware of sometimes there are expectations and you can choose to just meet them or you can choose something else. So there was at least a little bit of me that was aware of having the authority to make my own life decisions instead of letting things define me.
Sure.
Did this certainly bring that back up to the forefront? Yeah, absolutely. But I think I maybe did a little bit of homework before this all came down.
Sure. So the vast majority, hopefully, or the major majority of the people watching this have never been shot at.
No, nor do I want a lot of people to be able
this
to
isn't
directly
an experience
empathize
that I
for
want
me.
you to have.
Like I did, like when people say I don't know how that feels. Great.
Right.
I wish for there to be as few people in this subgroup of empathy as possible.
So now where I want to dig into is you've been through 5 years of therapy and dealing with these things. When somebody is dealing with their own difficult work situations, their own life events that are at their highest magnitude in their story.
Yeah.
What have you learned that you could pass on to them to say, here are some techniques to consider?
Sure. So, one of the challenges I've had over the last 5 years is to let workplace stress be workplace stress. Because eventually, all of the huge stuff, I was taking care of it. And so the things that were bringing me stress started to be raising kids, managing sprint loads. And those things can be super stressful too. Stress isn't a contest.
Right.
I'm not trying to say I'm under more pressure than you.
Right.
I'm feeling more stress than you, so your stress doesn't matter.
Right.
If it matters to you, it matters to you. It can be hard to deal with regardless of the source or the way that it came about. So, you don't have to be trauma level stress in order to feel like it's taking over.
Yep.
And the big thing is to say, this stress doesn't define me. I am not a passive part of this stress. I at least have, in my ability as a living human being, I have at least some agency. What is my agency here?
Sure.
Sometimes that is working to change the situation you're in Sometimes it's changing the situation that you're in.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you care about where you are, even though it is stressful, and you want to change it from within and have it just be better.
Yeah.
And great, you changed it in the process. That's cool too, but you just want it to be better. But sometimes the right decision is remove yourself from the situation, find a different situation.
Yeah.
There's no shame in that either.
Yeah, and you have to. You also have to take time to acknowledge the situation.
Oh yeah.
In your case, you didn't have to because it smacked you upside the head.
Right.
In most daily lives, you can become very numb to the situational things and feel like this is just the way it's supposed to be, but yet you need to give yourself some time to sit back and go, no.
I mean, everyone, I think, could benefit by just taking a couple deep breaths and saying, I deserve to be happy. You know, how often have you told yourself that?
Yep.
I mean, heck, I still need to tell myself that, right? And so, and you know, it can be in the positive. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to be in a place where I am valued.
Yep.
I deserve to feel love. Or it can be I don't have to be in a place like this. This situation doesn't have to be the thing that I do. And you know, whether you define it as positive or negative, it's technically both the same thing.
Yeah.
So define it in the positive. I deserve to feel valued. I deserve to feel comfortable in the work that I do. I deserve to feel like I'm making a difference. All of these things are reasonable requests for any human, regardless of the thing that's bringing them in the stress or bringing them to the stress situation that they're in.
Yeah. So, Ross moving forward.
Yeah.
What does Ross do? How does Ross take care of Ross?
I mean, part of Ross taking care of Ross is Ross making sure that Ross isn't just conference Ross or work Ross, that Ross is family Ross.
I love Ross.
Yeah.
I love that we said Ross about 1,700 times.
It's a lot of Rosses. But yeah, I mean, part of like right in around 2018 was the spot that I started getting picked up by more than one conference.
Yep.
And deciding, so am I the traveling conferences guy? Is this who I want to be? Is this what I want my weekends and months to look like? And as I am seeing my kids grow up, I had to make the active decision that it is an interesting thing. It is not my thing right now, for sure, because I want my weekend spent with my family whenever I can. I want to be there. So
living intentionally.
Yeah, there's very, very a lot of intentional living there, and so my work allows me more or less to do the things that give me joy. Part of my work gives me joy too. I mean, they still call it work. They don't call it fun.
Yes. Do you still work at the same place? Because I'm sure somebody wants to know.
I do still work at the same place. And one of the things that I'm now personally struggling with is figuring out, obviously, that company was there when I needed them, and silently and just easily helped me through the entire process. They were there. I am incredibly appreciative of their ability to let me heal in the way and at the speed that I needed to heal. But just like anyone in their career, you can't just be.
Right.
Hopefully there is a place where you see that you are going. And I would very much like for the future of me to maybe still fit there. But everyone needs to find out, I bring these things to the table and I want to help you make things better.
Yep.
I want to solve problems. I want to help people. Are the things that I bring to the table what this company needs?
Yep.
Is it the job that I'm doing? Do I need to be aiming for something? I'm still doing that conversation with the company about, like, the love is there, the appreciation is there. I also want to make sure that both of us see a future in everything I'm bringing to the table and everything that they bring for me.
Yeah.
And it's a nice thing, but also it's a tough thing.
Yeah.
I think we are easily defined by just doing the thing that we do. And sometimes the worst thing we can do is just keep doing the same thing.
Yep.
And so who knows what the future holds. But yeah, I have been happily working for the same company that I, endured traumatic stress in the office building. I still go to the office sometimes. I mean, I'm mostly remote. They're super friendly with that. But I feel comfortable being in the office. That was a process for sure.
For sure.
I am comfortably on the other side of that. Going to the office does not bring me stress. So yeah, it's, who knows where it goes, but I have been working there for 7 years. I have been a happy employee, and I can safely say that not every organization would that have been that way.
Oh yeah,
and I'm
for
very
sure.
thankful
For sure.
that we've been on that journey together.
Parting words.
Sure.
I appreciate you sharing. I know this is a topic. It's my own journey with mental health and going through things, just understanding more about oneself and how to live intentionally and how to pick up on stressors. And I think it's easy to sit here it's easy for me to sit here and go, hey, there was something very traumatic. It paints it helps illustrate the point of like, yes, it's an extreme, but some of the same techniques of how we heal and deal with things are there and at our disposal, and we have to choose to use them in all walks of life and living. And
honestly, some of the words that helped me were words that you set up on stage. Like, we're all in the same ocean, but we're on different boats. And there's a lot of truth to that, and there's a lot of ways that you can see how that makes sense. And like, I don't know what's going on in your boat. Maybe maybe sharing some of that is going to be helpful for you and for me. Maybe I can help you.
Right.
Maybe some of the things that I've learned along the way can help you out.
Yeah.
I won't not talk about it, but also it's not the only thing that I am. So I'm not going to lead with, hey, this is the only thing
I'm Ross,
that
I got shot.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a hell of a lead, but it doesn't need to be.
Right.
Because it's not the only thing I am.
That's right.
So,
what would be your parting words for somebody in a time where tech is just kind of weird all over the place?
It is weird. It is very weird.
Where there's a segment of people who are like, oh my god, everything's getting laid off, but the reality is this shit happens every 3, 4, 5 years.
There's
people hiring
still
all over
more
the place.
needs than there are people.
Exactly.
I would say
it's in a weird place.
It's a weird place.
But we're also in a weird place, like as Americans.
We are in a time of transition in many different ways.
In many different places. But what would be your call to action to folks listening?
I mean, we've been, all of us have been living under survival mode for a while. In different ways, making it through a pandemic, all that sort of thing. I knew what it felt like to be scared to leave the house, so it felt familiar when it happened.
Yeah.
But we are in that time of transition now. We don't just have to survive. And now is a great time to think about happiness, deserving to be happy, finding a place where you fit. Be intentional about being where you are and where you want to go, because if you don't, you'll just end up someplace. Yeah. And it's not super fun to realize that you're just in a place because you weren't steering.
Yeah.
And so I would say,
steer your boat.
Be the pilot on your boat.
I love it. Ross, thank you personally for sharing over the years. You and I have had a lot of conversations. You've sent me stuff along the way that I have used and added to my repertoire of how to fix Clark. Happy as shit that you're still here today. That was...
I'm happy you're here too.
I found it very weird to be in that position to where a whole community of people, and I think it's an offshoot of a sign.
Cared.
Right. It's that power of we're all together, and when somebody, the collective good was like, hey, we all have somebody from our tribe in that building. How can we find out and how can we help? And I think that that's super cool, and it's a testament to the people who are here
Yeah.
and to your involvement in all that as well, right? Because
I've been happy
people
to
cared.
be a part of the community, for sure.
So thank you very much. Thanks for taking the time to share on stage. And,
Thanks, man.
let's go have some fun.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Come in for the hug. Come on.
Get over here, motherfucker.